first Cole update that's actually filmed at school, yay! I'm actually filming this on a Wednesday because tomorrow we have whānau conferences at school and the kids leave at 12 and then I'm going to be here till 8 with parents. And then on Friday is Friday and I know I'm not going to have time to do anything. So I'll just give you an update so far on what we did this week, how it went, how the boys are going, etc. and what I'm going to do next. I put into, I don't remember what video it was, but I'll put a screenshot of it here, that I have a bit in my weekly plan where I picked one thing that I was going to work on for each of the boys this week. So I'll just kind of talk about how that went, if it did go, and what's next. Yeah. So for Paul, we were going to work on P-B sounds because he gets really, really confused. And what am I looking at? Here it is. And so we talked about P and B words this week. And I'll put a photo here, but we made little lists of all the P and B words that they could think of. And it got to the point where we couldn't think of any more words, so they were going through their colour wheel books, and that was really cool because they would like, oh, this word, and we would sound out the word together and write it down on the list, and that was really, really cool because they could go back and flick through the books and be like, oh yeah, that's a bucket, or like, what does Jolly Roger wear? Boots, and we wrote down the word. It was really, really cool. And yeah, it got to the point where I said, go and ask your friends if they know any other words that we don't have on the list, and their friends would say like either inappropriate words or words like really long words that they didn't know, and I was like, I'm actually not going to write that because you don't know what it means, so it's not your word. So I didn't write it. I only wrote words that they actually knew how to use or knew what it meant, kind of thing. And they came up with really good ones, and it was really good because we did some other stuff later on and they were like, oh miss, that's a B word, and we came back and we wrote it on, so that was really cool. So I'll put screenshots of those. And then because they were so into it of finding words that started with a certain letter, we also moved on to D and T sounds, which Paul also gets really, really confused with. So they didn't come up with as many, but that one was cool because they came up with kids' names in the class, which he always wants to use in his writing, but doesn't necessarily know how to use, or know how to spell, I mean, and then he goes and asks them and has to do it like letter by letter and it takes forever. So if I have them on the list, he can just copy them off the list and that's like more efficient for him. So my plan is to put all of these, as we do each letter, put them onto this door, where am I pointing? That door there, and kind of have like an alphabetic list. Oh, look at my messy netbook cupboard. Oh well. So then when they're writing, they can go back and use their own words. Because I do have a word list, I'll just grab it. I do have this that they can use, and it's the essential spelling lists. And so you start at 1, spelling list 1, spelling list 2, 3, 4, 5. But they're kind of intimidated by this because there's so many words all on there, and some of these words they don't know. So as much as I have this and I had good intentions for it and I've tried to get them to use it, it doesn't always work. Because it's kind of scary to look at if you're looking for one particular word that you don't already know how to spell. This can be kind of scary, so they don't really use it a lot, but that's fine. I tried. Yeah, so this is kind of going to be the own little one. Excuse me playing with my hair, it's really hot. Yeah, so we did that and they really liked it. And then I also did Q, because Q kind of looks like P, and I thought that they would get confused, but we couldn't think of any words. And they didn't, this was the only word that they knew for themselves. And I didn't want to like be like, oh, quill, and saying all these words when they didn't know what it meant anyway. Let's just focus on what they do know. So that was really good. We did a little bit, Paul and Kian, well, they both did this, but they did a little bit of handwriting practice. Now this was on Kian's name to practice, but if they do things together, they're more willing to do it, I guess, because Kian's super hard to motivate, and everything is like the end of his life and end of the world. So if they do it together, he's more willing to do it. So Paul practiced these letters because these are the ones he gets confused with, P and B together and D and T together, because he can't hear the difference. So he just kind of wrote those out on a piece of scrap paper. However, what I did for Kian was a bit more thought out and constructed because he needs it more. He was just there to be a friend and be a buddy. I got this off Twinkle. The essential spelling list thing is also off Twinkle. and laminated it. And again, my friend, shout out to Lucina Park, the year 1 teacher downstairs, she gave me washable markers so you can write on the laminated stuff and then just wash it off and then it's good to go again. So what I did is I rewrote all the letters up here, all the lowercase letters, because that's the ones he writes wrong. And I circled the ones up here that hang below the line. I'll get a pen and show you what I mean. I do have actual footage of him doing this, so I'll either put this over my voice or play it in the corner or something, I don't know. So this is what he tends to do, like 90% of the time, is that he'll write his lowercase p like this. And he doesn't mean it to be a capital P, he just doesn't know where it's supposed to go. He doesn't understand that it's supposed to go below the line. And like his J, better example than a P, is like that, when it's supposed to be a lowercase, so it's supposed to be like that. I don't know if this is making any sense, but yeah, so we practiced him writing out the letters across the line, just one set of the alphabet, baby steps, because he was like, meh, and he kind of didn't want to do it, because Paul wasn't doing it, he was doing just 4 letters, so then he was like, oh, it's so hard. So he just wrote out he copied my alphabet and copied the ones up here, and I tried to get him to focus on the ones that I'd circled because they go below the line. And he kind of got it, but it's very different just practicing it than actually doing it when you're writing out the whole thing and remembering to do it as you're writing a word or as you're writing a sentence. So I'm going to just make this like, almost like a tumble task where it's just something he does a couple of times a week just to practice. And sorry, Paul, but you're going to have to do it too, otherwise he won't do it. So sorry. Motivation, it's an issue. I also have this, and I actually got this for another kid in the class, not even one of these 3, because they write their letters backwards, and I don't understand why. Like, for let's do G. This is how this kid writes it. What are you doing? Looks like a 9. No. So I made them start at the dot, go around, and trace it down, and like write it in the right way. And I actually didn't mind that one because he wasn't the only, this other kid came and did it. Not Paul, but this other kid. So I'm going to make that kind of another activity. Yeah, so those kind of letter and word things is mainly what I did with Paul and Kian this week, and trying to get them to remember the words. Oh, that was the other thing we did with the P and B, because those are the ones that they get the most confused on. We kind of had like a game, I guess, where like one kid would say a word that started with P, and the other kid had to say a word who started with P, a word that started with P, and then this kid would go again, and like it was a kind of a competition to see who could think of the most words, and I was hiding these. So this was after we'd written the list and talked about all the words and stuff and gone through the books, and we'd had this big thing about it, and then we kind of played this game to see who could remember the most words that started with that letter, and it was really cool because they won one each. Like Paul won B, I think, and Kian won P, I think it was how it went. That was really cool that they just were practicing trying to remember the words that started with that letter and associating it with that letter, because I would just sit there going, and then they would be like, oh, or whatever it was. So that was really cool, and I want to do that more often. And they're really keen to do the whole alphabet, so that's really cool that they're like actually motivated to do it, and because it just shows them how many words they actually do know as well. I put Kian down to read with, I don't know what they're called, like these kind of like Rotary people, and they come into the school just to read with the kids for mileage and stuff, and normally it's like a junior thing, but I kind of put both of their names down, him and Paul, just for mileage, because I don't always have time to sit with them one-on-one every day. And the lady came for the first time today, and I sent Kian out with, he picked one book, and I picked one book that I know he can like mostly read by himself. Like there's just a few words he still doesn't recognize. And he came back in 10 minutes later like, what? I don't know what happened with this woman. I didn't go and ask because the whole class was there and they were staring at me and we were doing a thing and it was like really exciting. So I don't know what happened, but maybe it's just he doesn't like strangers. I'm going to talk to him about it tomorrow and find out why he didn't like it. or maybe she just wasn't as patient with him, or I don't know what it was, but I'm going to talk to him about it because I really want him and Paul to be on that program and getting that extra mileage that I can't always give them, and that we don't always have time for them to read to a friend. Yep, that didn't go well. That's okay. We move on. I'm going to see how Paul goes next time, because I think he'll be a bit more like open to it, because Kian's like really hard to motivate to read, and he just sits there and like doesn't do anything. Little update on Ryan. It's an interesting week. I get really frustrated with him sometimes because I offer to help him. I offer to help him one-on-one, leave everybody else to their own devices, and he will sit there with headphones on, or he will, like, I'll be explaining it and he'll just stare at me like, or he just doesn't, like, he'll just sit there, and I'm like, all right, if you're not even listening, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna baby you and sit here and be like, come on, you know, because I know that he can listen and he can concentrate on his own. So I'm not gonna baby him, you know. So that was interesting. He did nothing for 2 hours yesterday, and that was interesting. And it's awkward, but it's in a good way, but not in a good way, that when he gets into like his moments, his moods, where he kind of hides under a table in the corner of the room with headphones on, being like, "Whoa," all the other kids are like, "Miss, but he's under the table. Tell him, you know, rah, rah." And I'm like, just ignore him. He's having a moment. Just leave him. Manage your own self. Worry about your own self. But they get really not jealous, but like they don't like him being treated differently, and they don't like that I'll be like, no, just leave him. Because if it was somebody else, I might not be saying the same thing. So I might have a talk to them actually. Maybe, I don't know if it's better to do it when he is here or when he's not here. Maybe both. About why he sometimes needs a bit of a timeout, and why he always wants to wear headphones, and why he kind of reacts the way he does to them sometimes, and kind of explain that to them. And because they've heard of autism, that we've had other kids in the school before that have been autistic. Well, there is currently still other students here. But yeah, I don't know, they're not as sympathetic as they might have been. Also, something that is becoming an issue, and we have parent interviews tomorrow, so I'm going to mention it to Ryan's mum, is that there's another girl in the class who, when he first came, they were like, oh, we're cousins. And it's a very common thing to do in our school and in our like environment, I guess, because they're, you know, it's like, they don't mean literally you're my blood first cousin. They mean like, oh, we're vaguely related, so we're cousins. It's got a very loose meaning. But they're not actually related. Like the girl in the class whose actual first cousin has the same last name as Ryan's last name, but they're not actually blood related at all, because he's from a different country. But because they have the same last name, they were like, oh, we're fam. And he's like obsessed with her, and it's starting to make her really, really uncomfortable, to the point where we made kind of like a blogger header thing for their individual blogs. And he had more photos of her on it than he did of himself. And she happened to be sitting next to me, and I opened it on my laptop so then I could put it on his blog. And I was like, take these photos off of her. She doesn't, like, that's really weird. And she was like, man, and she felt so uncomfortable about it. And he got really upset that I told him to take the pictures of her off. It's not her blog. Why are pictures of her on it, you know? And yeah, it's starting to make her really uncomfortable, and he doesn't quite understand that. So that's becoming an issue, but I'm going to talk to his mum about it and see if she can talk to him, because he doesn't get it from me. So yeah, and like he'll only want to participate in games and stuff if he's allowed to sit next to her, which at first I was like, yes, because he will participate. But now she's like, no, I don't want to sit with him. And like he is like obsessed with her, and it's too much for her now. So she's kind of avoiding him. Which I totally get it. I'm not going to push it on her at all. Like I totally get it. But yeah, that needs to be dealt with a little bit. I still don't have Kian and Ryan's, keep forgetting their fake names, PAT data. The teacher aides have been really busy with other stuff, so I haven't had time to finish their test because they need to do it one-on-one. We've been told not to mark their writing samples until after Manaikalani moderation, which is all good. That means I actually, no, I was gonna say, it means I had a weekend, but I didn't, so it's fine. Which means I haven't marked them yet. So I have nothing yet to send to Donna. We had to redo our spelling test because originally we did Chanel, and now we've changed to Peter's. But I did Chanel in like week 2, so then I had to be like, sorry guys, we have to do another test, and then we had to do Peter's. All of the ones that Paul wrote, all the words that he actually wrote, he got right except for one, where he wrote the word here, H-E-R-E, as her. I mean, close though, right? Like better than nothing. So I was really, really impressed by that because like on Chanel, he wrote nothing because he didn't know any of the words. So I think Peter's is a better test, but I felt bad that like they had to do another spelling test because like the school changed what we were doing. That's not my fault or their fault or anything, but I just felt bad for them. And Keaton wrote like 5 words. But that's okay. Better than nothing on his Chanel where he drew a picture. So, win. Where to next? So, next week I want to keep going with the letter thing because they really enjoyed it, and putting these kind of things into their kind of activity box, tumble thing. I don't know, I'm going to have to like have a think about how they can do stuff independently without me having to constantly be on them and like making sure that they're like actually doing the right things instead of as soon as I walk away they start playing games, you know. So I have to think about that for next week and maybe try something next week when it's a full week as well, which I'm like, yes. Like we're not losing any days for sports or for puberty or for pool day or whatever, so that'll be really cool. Yeah, and the other thing with Ryan that we're slowly addressing is when he wants my attention, literally he'll be sitting right by the cupboard over there and I will be over here by my desk or up by the whiteboard or something, and he'll just go, Miss! And I hate it. Like, I hate it so much. So, and I know some of you might be like, that's horrible, why is she doing that? But I turn around and go, Ryan! Back at him in the same tone that he said it to me. And then he's like, and I said to him, did you like it? And he goes, no. And I said, well, I don't like it either, please don't do it to me. And then he'll stop for a while and he'll speak to me properly. But probably every morning he tries it and I do it back to him. And then he stops because he realizes how annoying it is. And how also disrespectful it is. So he has gotten a little bit better with actually approaching me physically before he starts speaking. The next thing to work on is, yes, he's physically approached me and he's got his netbook and he's trying to show me something. But also if I'm talking to somebody else or talking to the entire class, he needs to wait till I finish speaking and look at him. Yes, what do you need? Or how can I help you? Instead of expecting me to stop my conversation completely and give him my immediate attention, he needs to learn to wait a little bit and wait, like those social cues of me physically turning to him. Yes, how can I help you? Aren't quite there, but we're going to work on that. And I think that's it for this week. I actually feel really successful this week because the things that I had put on there, my weekly for them to do, I did. So I'm going to do that again for next week because I feel like it did help me and remind me exactly just one thing I need to work on with them this week, one thing I need to do, instead of it being like a big hairy monster. I'm like, oh, I don't have time. Actually, it's just one thing that I need to work on a couple of times during the week. And it's much more manageable. So I really liked that, and I'm going to redo that next week in my planning, which I'm going to do tomorrow in between parent interviews. That's all.